This is Duke University.
Opower was founded on the idea that if you just give people better information about their energy use in the context that makes most sense for them, compared to how they use energy versus others like them, that they'll make changes. So other than, I'd say what makes us most unique is we rely on providing information in context to get people to make changes, and it's been very successful. The model prior to that in energy efficiency has always been, how can I get someone to use a different piece of technology or install something that will make a difference? That's also an excellent way to change energy use, but it's hard to get the masses to make change when an investment's involved. Our first line of products was this, what we call the home energy report, or the personalized home energy report. And what that does is it provides a customer on a monthly or quarterly basis a front and back paper report that shows them how they're using energy versus their neighbors. And their neighbors are not necessarily just their next door neighbors or the people on their block. It's a group of customers that look like them in terms of the type of home they live in, the area where they are. So it's generally 100 homes close by, about the same size, about the same age, that the customer would see as similar to them. And what we do is we take all of the comparison and the analysis and compare it to that group. Because what we found is that if you provide people an opportunity to do something and you couch it as other people are already doing this, other people like you are already doing this, they're much more likely to take advantage of that. I think there's some interesting things that we've learned with the amount of data that we have. And today we have about half of the energy use in America in our database. So half of all the residential energy use that happens every day, every week, every month, we have access to. And when you have that much data, you're able to really dig in and find some things at the segment level and at the geographic level that are pretty interesting. One overall thing we found is that it doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is, what type of home you live in, what your weather patterns are in the city you live in, how expensive or inexpensive your energy is. Normative comparison and behavioral science still works to help you save energy. Now, some people and groups save more or less than others, but what we found is that if you give information in the right context and tell people something that they think is interesting about the way they use energy, they will make changes. And some make radical changes, some make modest changes, but in the aggregate, it makes a huge difference. I think if you look at the segment level, what we found is that there are customers that are predisposed to going deeper in terms of energy efficiency and taking advantage of programs and rates and other things. And most of the work we've been doing over the last 2 or 3 years is kind of putting that extra layer of analytics and insight into things to try to get people to do more and to go beyond 1 or 2 or 3% in savings, take advantage of other programs that the utility might have. I don't think clean tech is a fad, and I've been asked that question a bunch of times. I think we're finally reaching a tipping point where people understand that the clean tech business case is much greater than just changing the carbon footprint of the energy we produce. When you take the health benefits and all the other societal benefits associated with shifting away from a carbon-based energy production and use, the business case is absolutely rock solid. And when you combine that with all of the cost reductions in things like solar and wind and the increase in capacity from being able to store some of that energy, it goes back to kind of Moore's law of processors of computers, and that's really where we are now, where the tipping point of the efficiency in solar and the efficiency in wind and then coming efficiency in storage is, I think, going to produce an amazing opportunity to move our production not only to new generation sources but to a more distributed grid. Our part of that is different. We're not on the generation side or the production side, and we're on the making what we have more efficient and getting people to use less. That's a small part of the whole equation. And thankfully, we've been one of the clean tech companies that has been successful in that space, but I think there's tons of room for others. Even though we've had pretty good success in the United States over the last 6 or 7 years getting behavioral energy efficiency approved in most states and across North America, there's plenty of ground to do that across the world. And even in the States, there's only a few utilities where we're truly at sort of maximum capacity, either in the amount of savings or the number of customers that are taking advantage of this. So we think We don't think behavioral energy efficiency is the answer, but we think it is the beginning of the conversation that pulls people into wanting to do more or taking action in bigger ways. And the trick is going to be to move people along the continuum of that, so they're not just making small changes in the thermostat settings, but they truly are investing in some of the things that they have access to. At some point, we are going to run out of this carbon-based, fossil fuel-based energy source. And in the States, we've got a long way to go, but I think we may as well make it last as long as it can. And these other sources are becoming so much less expensive to use and to make that we really are at that tipping point, I think.